I'm doing this video on Patreon because I'm going to be discussing two individuals, and I frankly don't want this video to get back to them, okay? Not because I'm afraid of the reaction, but I don't want the whole hassle of internet drama, okay? I'm going to be discussing two people, one of whom I think is a complete and utter asshole, and the other I think is a really, really nice guy. But the issue is that you should never confuse who you consider an asshole and who you consider a nice guy with the issue of respect. See, over the years you're going to find that there are a lot of men that you think are assholes, but they're really good at what they do. They're really good at what they do, or they're really stand-up guys, or they have positive qualities. They are personally unpleasant. They are not guys that you really want to hang out with, but they have such valuable qualities and they contribute so much that you have to sort of like overlook the fact that they're assholes. And on the other side, you have these nice guys, right? And these nice guys, they're so fucking nice and pleasant, and they're fun to talk to, and they're great guys, and they're just fucking losers, man. They are losers, or they are guys who are just fucking morons, right? Or worse yet, they're guys who are really nice, they're really smart, you really get along with them, but they are fundamentally unsound. There's a guy called Curt Doolittle, okay? This guy is big on Facebook, and I happened to come across him and talk to him a few times, and he seemed like a great guy, really nice guy, really smart. He had lived in Ukraine, so he had a lot of pointers about life in Ukraine, right? He seemed like a very capable guy, a guy around my age, perhaps just a few years older than me, so we just really clicked and really hit it off. But then this guy, back in June, July of 2020, he went to this, he set up this demonstration for his political ideology called propertarianism. An ideology that, you know, I studied philosophy at Dartmouth. I'm not a complete fucking idiot, right? I mean, I can follow along argumentation and the logical positions of something, but this propertarianism shit, it was just garbage. It was just stupid. It was just like, what the fuck is this all about, huh? Anyway, he had this little group centered around propertarianism, and he had this little demonstration, and he was very friendly with a YouTuber called John Mark, and they all got together in Virginia, and he made an absolute fool of himself. He literally pissed his pants, and he gave up his megaphone after just screaming at his megaphone like a fucking retard. He gave his megaphone to this guy who had sort of like wriggled his way into the demonstration. The guy was fucking Antifa. And he just gave him the megaphone, man. What the fuck? It was just so embarrassing. And there he is. He was pissed in his pants, man. Pissed in his shorts. And there are pictures of it. Anyway, this guy, Curt Doolittle, right? He made an absolute fool of himself. And on top of that, it comes out that there's the very strong possibility that this guy, John Mark, who he was so friendly with, was essentially a Fed. That is some sort of agent for the US government, like for law enforcement. Because he had all of a sudden appeared on the YouTube scene, he had garnered a huge audience of 200,000 subscribers, and just like that, with content that ordinarily YouTube would have censored. But no, they promoted the shit out of this guy. I mean, they really distributed his stuff all over the place. And he got friendly with Curt Doolittle. They had this meetup in Virginia, and all of a sudden, you know, while they're at this meeting in Virginia, this John Mark guy gets all the names, the real names, and all the email addresses of all the people who had attended this gathering. All of these people who could potentially be labeled now as quote-unquote domestic terrorists. John Mark was a fucking Fed. Curt Doolittle, maybe he didn't realize it, maybe he did know it. Whatever the case, he made an absolute fool of himself. His whole thing went kaflooey. He totally discredited himself. And he was a really nice guy. But now this guy, Curt Doolittle, he's trying to make a comeback, right? And I'm just like very negative on that because I know what he is. He is some imbecile, quite frankly. I don't know if he's a Fed or not. It doesn't really matter. He's a fucking idiot. His ideas, propertarianism, are just stupid. And this LARPing movement that he's trying to restart 6-7 months after he made a complete fool of himself, I want nothing to do with it. I liked the son of a bitch. I liked him a lot. It was really great to talk to him. He was a really nice guy. But see, he's an example of a guy that you want to stay the fuck away from. Because nice as he is, he's number one, a fool. And number two, he can potentially cause a lot of damage. Because all those people who followed him, they are now on some government database as potential domestic terrorists, or perhaps even labeled as domestic terrorists. And the federal government in the United States, when they want to hurt you, they can really hurt you. And by being friends with Curt Doolittle, by following him, all these poor guys could get into a lot of trouble. And that's an example of a nice guy. I like the guy, and he's reached out to me, and I've rebuffed him. I want nothing to do with him, because I realize that because he's such a nice guy, because we have so many things that we can talk about and just laugh about and just like, click, right? I'll ignore his behavior. Also, sweep it under the rug. You got to be very, very careful about that. You got to make sure that when somebody like that, a nice guy, does something stupid, does something potentially dangerous, you realize that he is not somebody that you want in your life into the future. Nice as he is, you got to cut him loose and keep a distance, keep a buffer. And if you have to publicly throw shit his way so that he gets the message, do so. Because a nice guy like that, whether out of stupidity or incompetence, he can get you into trouble. I mean, I made it clear to Curt Doolittle that I wanted nothing to do with him. And how can I put it? I kind of regret it. Or not regret it. I feel bad about the need to cut him off like that. Because, like I said, I really liked him. On a personal level, he was really just a great guy. But I realize that long term, he is a danger. Guys who are stupid like this, guys who might be not what they claim to be, when you realize what's going on, you got to put distance between you and them, no matter how nice they might happen to be. And on the other hand, of course, when you come across an asshole, just because he's an asshole doesn't mean that you have to discount him. Like, for instance, Nassim Taleb, okay? Nicholas Nassim Taleb, the guy who wrote Anti-Fragile, he is the biggest fucking asshole ever. I mean, he really is just a complete fucking asshole. And it comes across in his books, it comes across in his tweets. He is just a stone cold asshole. And he's not like an asshole like an asshole but charming. No, he's just fucking retarded and unpleasant. He's a nitpicker. He's just an asshole. But he's got really smart ideas. He's got really smart ideas that are really interesting. And so, even though he is an asshole, he's worth paying attention to, because what he's saying is interesting. What he's saying has value. And see, it's the flip side. It's the flip side of Curt Doolittle. Taleb is somebody who actually has something to contribute. And therefore, I'm going to overlook the fact that he's a complete and utter asshole. Would I invite him to dinner? Probably not. I mean, I have a pretty high tolerance for assholes. I mean, my old man was the biggest asshole I ever met, right? So, you develop antibodies. You can handle an asshole. But this guy's off the charts, okay? I mean, I'd be happy to host a dinner party with, I don't know, Hitler and Stalin and Mao. It would be really fucking interesting, yeah? But with Taleb, no. Because he's just going to be bombastic, an asshole, a know-it-all. He's just going to be unpleasant. He's going to be a little shit. So of course I wouldn't invite him to dinner. But would I read his next book? Oh yeah. And that's what matters. You come across a nice guy. You come across an asshole. You got to figure out, why am I paying attention to this guy? Okay? See, and what is the deal breaker? If he's a nice guy and I want to bring him in closer to me and be more of a friend, what's the deal breaker? What's the thing that he would have to do that would make me cut him off? And then you cut him off if he crosses that red line. Of course, it's impossible for you to determine beforehand every little fucking thing, but you see my point. You have to have certain principles, certain red lines. of certain behaviors that you are not willing to cross, that you are not willing to allow somebody to come close to you who has crossed such lines. I mean, I'm not friends with murderers, for instance. No, fuck no. I've met a few guys in my time who are real killers. I mean, literal killers who have murdered people. I've met a few. Do you think that I would ever be friends with such people? No, never. No, keep them at arm's length. Very interesting to meet them, very interesting to talk to them, but keep them at arm's length, because such people, no, that's a red line for me. Would I be friends with somebody, for instance, who had like, I don't know, something egregious, you know, whatever? No. There are some things that I wouldn't tolerate. Other things I would. But like, for instance, like a bank robber, for instance. Sure, that sounds fascinating. And I wouldn't mind being friends with him because, you know, I'm not a bank. I don't think he's going to rob me, right? But a murderer or a retard, and I'm not talking about somebody who has a mental handicap. I'm talking about a guy who's just an idiot, who just does things that are stupid. Stupid, or perhaps he's some agent of some sort, you know, something vague like that, like the case of this Doolittle guy. My point. See, you gotta know what matters. Being an asshole doesn't matter, and being a nice guy, being a really friendly guy, is not necessarily important either. Pick and choose the people in your life. And don't be blinded by the fact that they're an asshole or a nice guy. A lot of people are. A lot of men are. A lot of foolish men are. They think, oh, he's an asshole, I don't want him in my life. Oh, he's a nice guy, oh yeah, bring him in. But they don't look beyond that. Be smart. Look beyond that. Always look beyond that. Because whether a guy is an asshole or a nice guy, that's just the surface level. What's always most important is what lies beneath.